Welcome to the Heal Yourself podcast, where we dive deep into all things healing. I'm Denise, a speech language pathologist and a self-love coach for adults and teens.
And I'm Kira, a traditional naturopath and functional nutritionist, and we're here to guide you through the transformative process of healing your body, mind, and soul.
From the latest in functional medicine to nurturing your relationship with yourself, healing trauma, and even transforming your money story, we're here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to create lasting change.
So whether you're looking to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually, join us as we explore the many paths to wholeness and wellness. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Heal Yourself podcast. You have Kira and Denise today, and we are joined by special guest Katie. Katie is a somatic coach and speaker, bridging science and intuition to empower her clients and honoring their glow within, the light they came here to embody and share. She's a clinical counselor, craniosacral and somatic therapist, expert registered yoga teacher, founded a registered children's yoga school, and has won awards for her contributions for the betterment of communities. And I forgot to say your last name. It's Connelly. So welcome, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
So we always like to start by asking, how did you get to this place? Tell us your journey.
Yeah, right. It really started when I was a child. So I think my mom recognized my childhood anxiety and ADHD traits. And so she really encouraged me to do breathwork and meditation. And then when I was about 7, I didn't want to play with my little cousins after dinner. So I went flipping through my grand's like 1970s style yoga book. And I started playing with some of the poses. I specifically remember, candlestick, where your feet are up in the air, and back bends. And I realized it was creating sensations in my body. And so this is what is now really known as somatic experiencing. And so there was a brief break of that, sort of that disconnection with my body from about 10 to 21. And then during my near-death experience, I really made a choice to come back. And I realized that I needed to reconnect with this work. And so that's why I do what I do. And so I professionally pursued it, taking it in a variety of directions, as you read, from like yoga to craniosacral and somatic work to clinical counseling. So, yeah.
Wow.
Journey in a nutshell.
Yeah, it sounds like a journey. Talk to us a little bit about somatic experiencing, because right now, I know we talked before we hit record, there's a lot of buzzwords out there in the health world, especially in the holistic health space: nervous system regulation, somatic movement, somatic experiencing. Like, what do you want to say about these things? Because I think people don't even know what they are and what they mean.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of what happens when you have these unregulated terms, right? Like, somatic has become such a buzzword. It's taking many forms. And I also practice it in many forms depending on my client and their needs. So at its core, soma means body. So essentially we're talking about body work. So we could include breath work in there. We could include yoga. We could include what else? I don't know, anything related to the body, right? When we go back to like the forefathers of somatic work, we're looking at like Peter Levine, Bessel van der Kolk, who else? There's a couple others. And shortly after my near-death experience, I started diving into this because I was really interested. So at its core, somatic experiencing is really about understanding our physiological sensations. So like, my tummy's grumbling. Yes, that could mean that you're hungry, but maybe there's also like a bit of a pain in there. So like, what else is this connected to? Is there nervousness in there, right? So what does this mean? emotionally, what else is it speaking to in our body? So when I go back to like that candlestick in the back bend that I was talking about, the back bend for me being a heart opener really released a lot of anxiety for me. So that became a tool that I used as a child. So it's really about connecting the emotions, the body, the intellect, all those layers of ourselves, maybe the energetic or that spiritual element, to holistically care for our body. And so when we look at it from a yogic perspective, because that's part of my background, we see the koshas, which takes into account our physical, our intellectual, our energetic, and our emotional. The indigenous medicine wheel does something similar. There's so many different traditions and cultures that look at it very holistically. And I feel like in the West, we're really starting to come back to that, which is beautiful and so needed.
Katie, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I especially like, people starting out or whatever. Why do people come to you? Like why they're like, "Oh, we need your help."
Lots of different reasons. Sometimes there's acute pain or an acute injury. Often it's chronic. So, for example, my gut has been bothering me for a really long time. Okay, great. So, as you both of you know, is this a food related issue? So, what are we eating? How are we eating it? What sort of like the food combinations? That's not my territory. That's where I recommend a naturopath. Um, but also, what else is going on? What does our environment look like? What does our routine look like? What is going on in our social interactions and support system? Um, so it's not just looking at one specific concern or looking at, excuse me, from one viewpoint, right? It's like what's showing up in the rest of our world? Why is this showing up? And taking that really sort of broad view to better understand how we can create a healthier system within and around us.
Yeah, like a total mind body approach, which we love.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious too. So, when you're doing somatic experiencing with someone, like I'm going to expand upon Denise's question. Let's say I'm coming to you with those chronic gut issues or with
Mhm.
ongoing anxiety. How do you teach me these? Like, are you teaching me things to do on my own? Am I learning to tap into the wisdom of my body?
Yes. So it depends on how I'm working with my clients. So in a craniosacral session, that's a one-on-one, um, and there's light touch involved. So I always explain to clients sort of a bit of an overview of how our nervous system and the craniosacral system work. And then we do the one-on-one, and I give them exercises to walk away with, or whatever has been intuited to walk away with. Um, when I'm working with children and parents, again, I always give an overview because I think information is really powerful. Um, and then we look at different exercises that we can use. So maybe those are like journaling or body mapping exercises, creative exercises, and movement exercises. So, like, what has not been integrated into the body, and how can we do this to really allow people to thrive?
Love
So
that.
it takes various forms.
Yeah. Um, is this something that people can do on their own? Can I get on
Abs-
YouTube and look up somatic experiencing and just start doing some things?
um, yes and no. Body awareness and even having the bravery to and the courage to go within and to look can be really daunting for a lot of people. Um, and we can't do surgery on ourselves. Right?
Yep.
So, yes, you can learn about some of these things. If you have a strong body awareness already, probably you can start to put some of these pieces together more easily. But like I was saying, for many, this is really a daunting experience to even go with it and be like, Where is this showing up from? What past patterns or childhood patterns even is it related to? And that's where having someone to guide you who is holistic and aligned, to sort of bounce ideas off of can be really helpful, and ideally someone who's actually trauma informed. Really, really important. So yeah, it's a practice. I mean, we've been taught to override our body wisdom and our intuition for so long. Our society sort of teaches us to do this. We even look at like marketing, right? We're taught not to listen to our bodies, but yet that's where the greatest wisdom lies, and that's why I call the brand Glow Within. So yes and no.
Which
I have a question.
yeah, go. We always interrupt each other. Go, Denise.
I know. Anywho, I do I have a question about this because it has become pretty mainstream. Like, people talk about it. There are more meditation centers opening. There are a lot of classes. Like, there's a lot of awareness right now, whether it's social media or, a lot of people are knowing about it.
Mhm.
And, and I'm going to give you an example. In my community, there are classes, and they're called either somatic experience classes or just a somatic class. But from what you're saying, it's kind of like it can be an individualized experience.
Yeah.
Can it also be in a group, or will it help if it's in a group, in a class with everybody?
My thought on this, and particularly for highly sensitive people who are aware and feel the energy deeply around them, work one-on-one with someone. When in a group setting, offering information and education and having the opportunity to talk about it is wonderful. When you're actually processing the emotions or the experiences, you want to be one-on-one. So, for example, in a craniosacral setting, and I have also experienced this myself, it can show up as the body almost convulsing and twitching. We're actually really releasing stored emotions in our fascia, in the nervous system. And you want to be one-on-one with someone who's trauma informed, who can support you through that, through breath, through reconnecting to the earth and resourcing the body. You don't want to be in a group setting for something like that. And this is why I am against doing breathwork in group settings unless there are really well-trained people, and it's like a 1-to-3 ratio with the instructors and group. If it's in like more of a clinical counseling setting where it's not like working quite in that same way with the body, we're talking through it. We still want to be able to process the emotions because they come out in a range of ways, right? And it's really important to have that one-on-one to be able to go deep to process it, rather than maybe leaving ourselves completely open and then walking away re-traumatized, or for it to show up later without that, I'll call it sort of putting things back together before we leave. So
It makes a lot of sense what you're saying, because I have done breathwork classes in group, and I used to go weekly, and I love them, and I love the instructor. She was on our podcast actually earlier, and before, not earlier today. Anywho, and I would love it, but then I noticed toward the end, that's why I stopped going on a weekly basis. I'm like, let me take a break, because a lot of the times I'm I'm empathetic. Like sometimes I feel like, wait a minute, these are not my emotions. Like if someone's, the thing is, because I am way ahead in my journey, maybe, for example, than other people, right? And then when someone's like releasing and they're crying, and I'm feeling his or her emotions, and I'm like, why am I doing that? I'm like, those are not my emotions. So I'm constantly in a battle. That's why I wanted you kind of take a break. And I love what you said, because sometimes when the class was small, it was perfect. But when the class was bigger, and I was so happy for the instructor, but when the class was bigger, it was, I had way more anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, when are you going to come to me? Like, when are you going to get to me? When are you going to, you know what I mean? Like, I can hear every single one, every single emotion. So that was really overwhelming. And I took a break from that for a minute. I'm still taking a break, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's really important to speak to, and not many people do speak to it. But like you said, it's wonderful for instructors, but integrity is key.
And off topic, but on topic. I've heard this also about things like ayahuasca. Like people that
Yes.
are really well trained are saying, like, you shouldn't be doing that. You can open yourself up to so much, and that's what's lacking is that closure. So then you're walking away, and now, yeah.
Yeah, and we see things like psychosis or even
Uh-huh.
episodes, and just being totally disconnected and out of body. And this may sound really woo-woo, but when we're completely out of body, we also absorb more of other people's energy
Yeah.
and are not aware of it. And we wonder then why we have chronic anxiety. Well, is it ours, or have we been collecting other
Hmm.
people's stuff along the way?
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound woo-woo to us, but I'm curious, and maybe you can't answer this. Is there a way to know if you're open? Like, are there other things besides ayahuasca or breath work,
Mm.
things that people could be unknowingly doing and opening themselves up and not realizing, oh my gosh, this is someone else's energy? Because
Yeah.
you're right, we're a society that's not tapped in. We have no
Yeah.
idea if Denise and I recognize now,
Yet we're
finally.
all connected. Yet we're all
Yes.
connected, right?
Yes.
So that's why it's really important sometimes. Like sometimes you'll be in the shower and some thoughts are coming. I'm like, dude, I don't even know these are my thoughts.
Is this coming from the dog?
Yeah, right? Some dog
I mean,
wisdom.
after listening to the telepathy tapes, I have no idea. Maybe. He's like,
Ah.
I need some treats. I need some treats.
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really important. And that's something that I actually teach children. I call it sort of the five fingers, where we go through that process and figure out, is this mine or is this someone else's? I had, it wasn't until I was about 27 that I really sort of figured this out, because I would start coughing or feel like I was choking if somebody needed to say something, and like from miles away, but I was able to pinpoint who it was. Or I'd feel like a stabbing knife in my back. And so I started to take moments and be like, this isn't mine. So whose is this and how can I clear it? And I think back to your point, Kira, most people do go through their day, and particularly our sensitive and neurodiverse children, unaware of what they're picking up on, because they're so beautifully open and connected to so much more than I think we even give them credit for, which is part of their gift. But we also need to have the tools to connect to the earth, connect to our body, and recognize our window of tolerance. Recognize when we're at those limits, and okay, how can I come back to nourish myself so I don't go beyond that sort of limit, if you will, and have to check out. Because a lot of people spend their time out of their body,
Mhm.
not even aware of, how do my feet feel? How
Yeah.
do my hips feel? And this again ties back into that whole somatic experiencing. It's like coming back into the body. What am I noticing physiologically? What am I noticing in terms of sensations? And then with children, I like to, and particularly those who maybe not as verbal, like exploring this through color and through movement, through sound. Those are all beautiful tools to help process those emotions. And if we're able to learn to do this in a more proactive way, we don't end up holding as much and getting to that witching hour, or like 3 o'clock, when children or adults are completely overwhelmed and we just like can't handle anymore.
Yeah.
I have a question before the other question that just came up when you were talking about the nonverbal kiddos. So I want, if you don't mind, Katie, talk to us a little bit about the anger emotion. I
Mm,
feel that anger has a bad rep, even though it is a healthy emotion, and we
yeah,
have spectrum of emotions, right? There isn't an emotion that we shouldn't be having or experiencing.
yeah.
Yet, anger is very viewed.
It's vilified.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's vilified. And then now I've been starting to say, because right, I noticed my daughter, I have a teenager, she's 13, and you're like, why are you angry with me? I'm like, one, I'm not. Like, even if I raise my voice, it doesn't mean I'm angry. And then two, like, now I'm noticing myself, like, you know what? Anger is a healthy emotion. And at this time right now, I am feeling this anger because my boundaries were crossed, and that is okay. So I just want you to, but sometimes I go back to like, oh, anger, angry, and yeah. So if you can talk to us from that point of view, and then I'll ask you about the non-verbal cues in a minute because they are my people.
Yeah, so anger obviously, like you just said, all emotions are healthy. And I think by being connected to our body, we're able to be better aware of what the emotion is or what the sensation is, what the color is, if you will, showing up in our body and understanding, okay, why is this showing up? Like you said, my boundaries are being crossed. Okay, great. How do I, one, express this for me in a healthy way so it doesn't build up to the point of blowing up or we're trying to keep it in? And I'll speak to that in a minute too, until we do blow up in an inappropriate way or situation. Um, and anxiety is the same. But so often we don't listen to the anxiety and we just like shove it down until we're burnt out or there's a serious chronic health concern, right? And so this is why I really, really do not like the term self-regulation. I understand and I get that it's like a commonly used term, but to me, regulation it implies control. And like trying to keep ourselves regulated and in a bit of a box. And that isn't, we don't want to repress those emotions. We want to be aware of those emotions and find a healthy, appropriate way to process them rather than trying to hold it all in, like we tend to do in Western societies in particular. We try to stuff it until it becomes something unmanageable. And that's when anger or any of the emotions can show up inappropriately.
Yeah.
Love it.
Denise, I know
Now I'm
you
going to
had
ask the
another
non-verbal.
question.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I wrote it down. Okay, because I do work with kiddos who are nonverbal
Mhm.
and or they're verbal, but it's difficult. They're verbal because they're reciting, things that they're memorizing versus
Like myself.
expressing their wants and needs,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of them, sometimes we write a goal where, we want them to express their emotions per se, right? But I know,
Yeah.
like, I feel happy. That doesn't mean that they truly feel happy. So, as a speech therapist, I do encounter, and so I feel what's happening, especially in a public school setting, like these teachers, the aides are not understanding these kids' emotions or whatever they're going through.
Yeah.
So, what do you recommend for these parents? Or maybe I can actually like tell them like look into this or look into that because these are like when I'm coaching right now parents, I always tell them because especially young families, they don't know, they don't understand the disorder, they don't know. And I'm
Yeah.
constantly telling them, please view them as amazing and beautiful and intelligent, even if they're not
I love that.
expressing they are intelligent, right? They are
Yes.
smart. But then sometimes I feel that these kiddos, they hold the emotions because they cannot express them. And then me teaching them, I am happy or I am sad or I'm angry. Sometimes it's more than that. It's deeper
Yes.
than that, right? But then I'm not their parents. So I can't take them to these places. Where is something that I can, I mean, I'm in California, but the world, now we have access to the whole world.
Yeah.
What can I actually tell these parents like to look into to help their kiddos get those emotions out?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, like a lot of this is rooted, I take the perspective coming from craniosacral and just a strong nervous system background. A lot of it's rooted in the nervous system. One example is I worked with a 2-year-old many years ago. She wasn't talking, she wasn't able to eat food. After one session, she was talking and swallowing and eating food. So this is like the power of working with the nervous system and getting to the root of it. And like you said, it's a different way of experiencing and expressing the world. It's not wrong. It's just different.
Different. It's different, exactly.
Yeah. And so it's like learning to speak a different language with your child. We might speak in English, but really, English is quite limiting when we learn to speak through the body. So, again, going back to like, is this showing up as a color? Can we paint it out? Is this showing up as an expression of the body, a movement? Is this showing up as a sound? How else can we express it? And like trying to tie it together from there first, because when we're in a heightened state, so this is not just nonverbal or preverbal children, when we're in a heightened state, so that sympathetic fight flight activated, we're not in our higher brain to be able to be like, oh, I'm angry because X, Y, and Z, and I know exactly what to do. That comes after. We have to get back into the parasympathetic, that rest, digest, socialize, calm space by going out for a walk in nature, by, I don't know, whatever your practice is before we can get to that space. So it's really important to give ourselves a space to first connect with our body, and then to be able to understand how this experience is showing up, and then to be able to help our children understand and process it and problem solve in a healthy way. That's what my whole heart-centered parenting course is actually all about. And I do like a 12-week journey with a small group of parents. But yeah, we work through like the reflexes and how that the primitive reflexes, and how when they aren't fully integrated, how that plays into the rest of the development stages up until 15 years. But yeah, that's sort of what I do. It's fun. I love it. And I love even working with adults to help them understand, because for many of us, we weren't given these tools as children. For many of us, boundaries is like, oh, what are my boundaries?
And for those of us with neurodiverse kiddos, I'm going to say we've been dysregulated. And so when we can regulate ourselves, it's going to help them. And I've noticed that from personal experience.
Right? Absolutely. You can't meet them and help calm them when, as a parent, we're overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Even if we try to pretend to, they are sensing our energy. And what they end up feeling is, I'm unsafe. There's a disparity here.
Yeah.
It's hard parenting.
It is.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It is, whether on the spectrum, neurodivergent, not. It is. Because I always say parenting doesn't come with a manual, right? And then it's going to depend on your experiences. Plus, parenting in your 20s, it's different. Because I have an almost, not almost, he is 19 already. And then my daughter's 13. So there is a gap between them. And then sometimes my son would say, like, well, you're not raising her like you raised me. Like, you were more stricter with this and that. And I was like, one, we were different parents. We were different people when we were raising you, and different experiences, different things. So I feel like even within the same family, sometimes you have but it's, and then they're seeing your journey, you know what I mean? Like I went from like not being aware or conscious to like, doing all of that stuff and like, what, but I also see my kids sometimes, make fun of me, but then when they get older, I see them like, Gio right now is like making the smoothies and doing all of the healthy stuff and meal prepping. And I'm like,
That's
okay,
awesome.
where did that come from? Right? Because he did see me do that. Yes, they were making fun of me. So it's really fun. It's really nice to hear that your mom did encourage you breathwork and meditation. My daughter's a dancer, so I try to do the tapping with her, the meditation. But of course, everything mom does is cringy. So I'm hoping one day that she'll do those on her own, like you did in your 20s.
I'm sure she will. It's leading by example, right? Planting the seeds.
Yeah. Well, anything we didn't touch on that you feel intuitively that our audience needs to hear?
Hmm. Love yourself. Love your journey. Um, we all come into this life with various gifts and challenges, which can open up even more beautiful gifts than we possibly imagined. But it does take courage, and it takes a lot of love for ourselves to be able to unearth it. So, yeah.
I
I
love
love
it.
that you said that. I
I
love
know,
it. Because
because
we're
it's our
always talking
theme.
about self-love. We're
Yep.
always talking about loving yourself. And, sometimes I feel like sometimes it can be misinterpreted, when we say love
Yeah.
yourself. But yeah, I truly hope that this podcast is constantly reminding
Hmm.
others to love
Yeah.
themselves, and especially for who they are, truly. I mean, the world's already criticizing, just
Yeah.
lower that volume on that inside inner critic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to make sure all of your social media contact information is in the show notes. But for people that aren't even looking, what's the best place to come find you? Where are you most active?
Um, that's a good question right now. Maybe go to my website. So glowwithin.ca1w. I am on Instagram at the glow within you, and reviving my YouTube
Love it.
glow
Are there
within.
any programs or anything on your website that you recommend that someone will? Because sometimes, like, visiting a website for the first time, you're like, what am I gonna go?
Mhm.
Which tab am I gonna click? So, what do you recommend as it's starting out?
Yeah, so for parents of highly sensitive or neurodiverse children, I'll send you the link actually to that, but to the heart-centered parenting course. Um, I do a course for pregnant mamas and then one for educators. Yeah, so I have a few different things that I can send you, then you can choose what you think is appropriate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
You're
much,
very
Katie.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, you guys know the drill. Find us on Instagram at Heal Yourself Podcast. Leave us a review, message us, let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll see you on the next episode.